Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 4th annual Voice.2.Voice Poetry Project final presentation. I'm very happy to introduce Opera House Arts Director of Education, Joshua McCary.
And I'm honored to introduce Opera House Arts Producing Executive Director, Per Jansen.
Thank you, Joshua. And we want to thank you for tuning in this evening. This is our first ever YouTube live event, so we thank you for your patience with any kind of technical issues we may run into. And we thank you for taking this moment to pause and breathe with us. Tonight is a celebration. We are celebrating the work of our students, teachers, administrators, parents, our guest teaching artists, Liz Rimar and Taylor Karin, and the work of our Director of Education, Joshua McCary, who rose admirably to the challenge. I have, my cat is right there. I'm gonna keep going. The challenge of adapting this program to be online only. It's been a really, really beautiful thing to witness how they've risen to that challenge and found a way to bask in the beauty of poetry, even in these very, very strange circumstances. And tonight we are thrilled to share the fruits of their labor with you. I'm going to hand the microphone over to my colleague, Joshua.
Thank you, Per. Voice-to-Voice Poetry Project joins the voice of the middle school student with the voice of a published poem. Over the course of the weeks between Valentine's Day and National Poetry Month in April, over 300 middle school students in our area choose a poem from an anthology that we create at Opera House Arts. They memorize that poem, and then we invite a professional performing artist into the classroom to help the student lift and harness their authentic voice through the voice of the poem. Students are evaluated on their recitations by a community panel of judges, and the highest scores from those evaluations go on to form part of this showcase tonight. So I want to thank our partner organizations in this project, Reach Performing Arts Center and Blue Hill Books. And I also want to thank all of the school's students, teachers, administrators, parents, my gosh, all of you for bringing this program to life with us. So if you are from one of the schools that I mentioned now, I want you to take a moment to bask in the pride of who you are and clap your hands, snap your fingers, put an emoji into the comment section.
Over here, yeah. I just popped myself back into gallery view just so I could point in that direction, which I hope is the right way, Joshua. I'm putting you back in the spotlight.
Great. As Per said, tonight we celebrate you. So thank you to Deer Isle Stonington Elementary School, Explorations Learning Center, Sedgwick Elementary School, Blue Hill Consolidated School, Penobscot Community School, and the Adams School in Castine. We would like to start our program tonight with a special guest. Her name is Julia Bousma, and she is our guest poet for tonight's showcase. Julia Bousma lives in New Portland, off the grid, in the mountains of Western Maine, where she is a poet, farmer, freelance editor, critic, and small-town librarian. She is the author of 2 poetry collections, Midden and Work by Bloodlight, and the recipient of the 2018 Maine Literary Award, the 2016-17 Poets Out Loud Prize, and the 2015 Cider Press Review Book Award. Julia currently serves as book review editor for Connotation Press, an online artifact, and as library director for Webster Library in Kingfield, Maine, where she joins us now. Friends and neighbors, welcome I introduce you to Julia Bousma.
My first serious experience with reading and writing poetry came in third grade. I'm very lucky that a good friend of my family is also an incredible poet and a professor of poetry, including of metrics. And she read some books by Kenneth Koch about teaching poetry to young people, and she wanted to try it, and she volunteered at my elementary school. And once a week for an hour, she would take us out of class and she would give us poems. She would give us William Blake, um, Gerald Manley Hopkins, Edna St. Vincent Millay, who is a big favorite of mine, remains a big favorite of mine. Her paternal great grandmother is actually buried on my property here in Western Maine. Emily Dickinson was another big favorite of mine. And each class there would be a poem for a specific student that she would pick just for us, and we would read it and talk about it. And then we would write poems of our own with different prompts that she would give us. I had a fondness for ending all of my poems with the word eternity. So she was the first person to talk to me about revision and how that was important. But it was an incredibly powerful experience. For me, it was life-changing. I think I knew then that I was going to be a poet. It was just so exciting to have access to my feelings in that way through language. So anyway, that was my first experience. Spell for spring. When you hear the woodcock's nasal peep, drop trees across that gravel gully you call road. Drag limbs to the smolder fire. Your land swells now with peels, grinds, shells, as sweet as condemnation, as sin. The cat fetches you a flying squirrel, half carcass on the front porch, seeping rain. In the path you will find a long green hairpin with a glass jewel for an eye. Now the ground burbles song over your boots. Come closer. A cluster fly drowns in the sap pail. Now you will crave the taste of dirt under your fingernails, in your teeth, in your throat. You will want to swallow your hands. The advice that I would offer to those who want to write poetry is to read poetry and to write poetry and read as much as you can, as widely as you can. And don't be afraid. I think often we're afraid of poetry. We're afraid we don't understand it properly. You can just walk into it, let it wash over you. Every time you read something, you'll get something different out of it. So I just immerse yourself in poetry. Read it to yourself. Read it to your cat. Read it in your head. Read it out loud. Read it in the woods. The other thing I would say to someone who is serious about writing poetry is to know that it's very difficult work. And it's very wonderful work. But to be a poet also means that you walk around in the world with your eyes open and your heart forward. And you feel things deeply, and you then channel that into your work. And it's an incredible process. But I would say it is not necessarily for the faint of heart. But for those of you who are listening, who are excited about poetry, I just encourage you to step into it any way you can. And good luck, and have fun, and it'll be wonderful. Thank you.
That was Julia Bousma, celebrated Maine poet, joining us from New Portland. And now, I'd like to introduce to you the Opera House Arts 2020 Voice-to-Voice Poetry Project winners.
I'm Rosalie Bailey. I'm 11 years old. I live in Deer Isle, and my poem is Changing by Mary Ann Hoberman.
Hi, my name is Patience, and I'm 12 years old, and I live in Sedgwick, Maine.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Austin. I am 14 years old, and I am from Penobscot.
My name's Kobe. I'm 14, and I'm from Penobscot.
I'm Jackson Whiting. I'm 12 years old, and I'm from Sedgwick Elementary School.
My name is Gabriella Kelly. I'm 14, and I live in Sedgwick, Maine.
My name is Erin Dooley. I am 12 years old, and I live in Blue Hill.
Hello, my name is Nikolai Ledbetter. I'm 11 years old, and I live in Deer Isle, Maine.
My name is Hazel Sheehan. I'm 14 years old. I live in Sedgwick, but I go to the Castine School.
I'm Max Urgus. I'm 14, and I live in Castine.
Hi, I'm Sam Robbins, and I go to Explorations Learning Center. I live in Stonington, and I'm 12.
Hi, my name is Winslow Noel. I am 10 years old. I'm turning 11 tomorrow, and I live in Castine.
My name is Steve McKechnie. I'm 14 years old, and I live in Penobscot.
Hello, my name is Rain Daniels. I am 13 years old, and I live in Deer Isle, Stonington.
Hi, my name is Acadia Simmons. I am 11 years old, and I go to the Adams School in Castine.
My name's Alyssa Smith. I am 13 years old, and I live in Stonington.
Hi, I'm Madeline Copperthorne. I'm 13, and I live in Blue Hill, Maine.
Our first recitation tonight will be Rosalie Bailey, sharing her recitation of Changing by Mary Ann Hoberman. Mary Ann Hoberman is the author of 30 children's books, born August 12, 1930, and at 89 years old lives in Stamford, Connecticut. Rosalie Bailey was born November 24, 2008, and joins us now from her backyard in Stonington, Maine.
Changing by Mary Ann Hoberman. I know what I feel like. I'd like to be you, and feel what you feel like, and do what you do. I'd like to change places for maybe a week, and look like you look like, and speak as you speak, and think what you're thinking, and go where you go, and feel what you're feeling, and know what you know. I wish we could do it. What fun it would be if I could try you out, and you could try me. Changing by Mary Ann Hoberman.
Next, we have Patience Yurchik reciting Stones by Thomas Tranströmer. Tranströmer was born in 1931 in Stockholm and is one of Sweden's most distinguished poets. Patience joins us from her home in Sedgwick as the first place winner from her school.
Stones by Thomas Tranströmer. Stones we have thrown are here, falling glass clear through the years. In the valley fly the moment's chaotic act, shrieking from treetop to treetop, made mute and thinner air than that of the present. They glide like swallows over mountain to mountain, until they reach the farthest plains at the edges of existence. There fall all our deeds, glass clear to no bottom, except within ourselves. Stones by Thomas Tranströmer.
I now present to you A Third Body by Robert Bly, recited by Kennedy Austin from Penobscot.
A Third Body by Robert Bly. A man and woman sit near each other, and they do not long, at this moment to be older or younger or born, in any other nation or time or place. They are content to be where they are, talking or not talking. Their breasts together feed someone whom we do not know. The man sees the way his fingers move. He sees her hands close around a book she hands to him. They obey a third body that they share in common. They have made a promise to love that body. Age may come, parting may come, death will come. Man and woman sit near each other. As they breathe, they feed someone we do not know, someone we know of, whom we have never seen. Third Body by Robert Bly.
Next up, we have Old Man Leaves Party by Mark Strand. Our second place winner from Penobscot Community School, Colby Reynolds, will be reciting this poem. Mark Strand was born in Prince Edward Island in 1934 and went on to become U.S. Poet Laureate in 1990. Colby is in 8th grade and joins us from Penobscot.
My poem is called Old Man Leaves Party by Mark Strand. It was clear when I left the party that though I was over 80, I still had a beautiful body. The moon shone down as it will on moments of deep introspection. The wind held its breath. And look, someone left a mirror leaning against a tree. Making sure that I was alone, I took off my shirt, and the bare grass nodded their moon-washed heads. I took off my pants, and the magpies circled the redwoods. Down in the valley, the river was flowing once more. How strange that I should stand in the wild alone with my body. I know what you were thinking. I was like you once, but now, with so much before me, so many weed-whitened fields, emerald trees, mountains and lakes, how could I not only be myself, this dream of flesh from moment to moment? Oh, that was Old Man Leaves the Party by Mark Strand.
Next, we will hear from Grace Jaffrey, a 7th grader at Blue Hill Consolidated School. Grace chose the poem Tendril by Adrienne Rich. During her life, poet and essayist Adrienne Rich became one of America's foremost and widely read public intellectuals. Ladies and gentlemen, Grace Jaffrey.
Tendril by Adrienne Rich. Why does the outstretched finger of home probe the dark hotel room like a flashlight beam? On the traveler, half-packed, sitting on the bed, face in hands, wishing her bag emptied again at home. Why does the young security guard pray to keep standing watch forever, never to fly? Why does he wish he were boarding, as the passengers file past him into the plane? What are they carrying in their bundles? What vanities, superstitions, little talismans? What have the authorities intercepted? Who will get to keep it? Tendril by Adrienne Rich.
Our next reciter is Jackson Whiting, our 3rd place winner from Sedgwick Elementary School. He'll be performing Scheming in the Snow by Jack Gilbert. Gilbert was born in 1925 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and tonight Jackson Whiting brings his poem Scheming in the Snow to life.
Scheming in the Snow by Jack Gilbert. There comes a time after what comes after being young, and a time after that. Hearing a woodpecker in the silence far off in the distance, as he remembers his Chinese friend whose brother gave her a jade ring 2 weeks after she turned 18. She was hurrying up the steps of a Hong Kong bridge, and she slipped, and the 1,000-year-old ring fell onto the concrete. When she told him, stunned and tears rolling down her face, he said, "Don't cry, I'll get you something better." Scheming in the Snow by Jack Gilbert.
For me, poetry, it's kind of like a quick shot of adrenaline. It's something that is very dense, and everything that the poem wants to say is saying it right there, right in the moment. There's no extra fluffy bits, even things that seem like the fluffy bits mean something, and I appreciate that. And they also create little tiny blips of worlds, rich in imagery, and I'm somebody who thinks in imagery, and it's fun, and I like it.
My primary love of poetry is the economy of words and how quickly it can make you feel extremely deeply. And it's generally not overly excessive, and the words they float in your brain for a little bit, and you think of them like a song, and just the use of the language, the way that it can stick with you, it's extremely powerful.
Tonight's next recitation will be Gabrielle Kelly, an 8th grader at Sedgwick Elementary School. Gabrielle will recite an excerpt from Marilyn Hacker's poem, Cancer Winter.
No body stops dreaming it's 25, or 12, or 10, when what is possible's a long road, poplars curtain against loss, able to swim the river, hike the culvert, drive through the open portal, find the gold hive dripping with liquid sweetness. Visible fantasy, if, all the while, invisible entropies block the roads, so you arrive outside a ruin, where trees bald with blight wane by a river drained to sluggish mud. The setting sun looks terribly like blood. The hovering swarm has nothing to forgive. Your voice petitions to the indifferent light. I don't know how to die yet. Let me live. From Cancer Winter by Marilyn Hacker.
This year's poems speak to the experience of the human body as it tries and struggles to move through uncertainty. Our next poem, Epiphany, was written by B. Gates, a resident of Brooksville. I'm proud of our Blue Hill Consolidated third place winner, Erin Dooley, for taking on this beautiful poem. Epiphany by B. Gates, recited by Erin Dooley.
Epiphany by B. Gates. Blue bowl in the coming light, high maples glow red-tipped at dawn, full gesture of blood returning to limbs, the threat of a surprising golden wind. I am the coming bright side of the triangle, hold myself folded against my ribs, hands uneasily preparing for all the feelings to resurface on my skin. Tight gray bark awash, dark stain of sudden thaw, all I need exposed in winter light, the new old roots that deepen as love calls up, urgente, and the entire body answers, until all movement is built on fierce joy and alarming patience. Lips daily grazing the tenderness that surrounds me, this that has become what I cannot do without. It is asked of me, even as winter is upon us, and it cannot be stopped, this asking of the body to trust, to carry the change to every outer reach, until present touch touches present. Epiphany by B. Gates.
Thank you, Erin, and thank you, B. Gates, for your poetry. B. Gates is the MFA Professor of Creative Writing at Goddard College, and also conceived and wrote the libretto for The Singing Bridge, an opera performed on the Stonington Opera House stage a few years back. Last year, the world said farewell to beloved poet Mary Oliver, and tonight we celebrate her legacy with 3 poems performed as part of our program. The first, The Roses, will be performed by Nikolai Ledbetter from Deer Isle, Maine.
I'm going to cite my poem, The Roses, by Mary Oliver. One day in summer, when everything has already been more than enough, the wild beds start exploding along the berm of the sea. Day after day you sit near them. Day after day the honey keeps on coming, and the red cups in the bees like amber drops roll. In the petals there is no end, believe me, to the inventions of summer. And that was The Roses by Mary Oliver.
Now let's head from Deer Isle over the bridge to Sedgwick to hear from Hazel Sheehan reciting Lamento by Thomas Transtromer. Hazel is in 8th grade at the Adams School in Castine.
Lamento by Thomas Transtromer. He put the pen down. It lies there without moving. It lies there without moving in empty space. He put the pen down. So much that can neither be written nor kept inside. His body stiffens by something happening far away, though the curious overnight bag beats like a heart. Outside, late spring, from the foliage of whistling, people or birds? And the cherry trees in bloom pat the heavy trunks on the way home. Weeks go by. Slowly, night comes. Moths settle down on the pane like small, pale telegrams from the world. Lamento by Thomas Transtormer.
Thank you, Hazel. And now another recitation of a poem by Mary Oliver. This one is called Oxygen, recited by Max Ergas from the Adams School in Castine.
Oxygen by Mary Oliver. Everything needs it. Bone, muscles, and even, while it calls the earth its home, the soul. So the merciful, noisy machine stands in our house, working away in its lung-like voice. I hear it as I kneel before the fire, stirring with a stick of iron, letting the logs lie more loosely. You, in the upstairs room, are in your usual position, leaning on your right shoulder which aches all day. You are breathing patiently. It is a beautiful sound. It is your life, which is so close to my own that I would not know where to drop the knife of separation. And what does this have to do with love, except everything? Now the fire rises up and offers a dozen singing, deep red roses of flame. Then it settles to quietude, or maybe gratitude, as it feeds, as we all do, as we must, upon our purest sweet necessity, the air. Oxygen by Mary Oliver.
I chose my poem mainly because it was like more laid back. It was kind of like funny, but even though I didn't laugh.
I chose it because it has a lot of really cool words and phrases, and it really jumped out at me.
I chose the poem A Third Body by Robert Bly because it was really different and stood out to me because it gives you this picture, like this joyful picture in your mind of these two people and their love story and their promise that they make to each other, which is this third body that they talk about. And it's really well written and it's really cool, and I really enjoy reading it.
The reason why I picked this one is because it tells you all about how we should enjoy our summer while we have it, and we shouldn't waste our time away being inside and doing stuff we'd usually do in like the winter. We should enjoy the time we have.
Now, let's venture further into the natural world with a few poems about animals. First, Giraffes by Marianne Hoberman, recited by Sam Robbins of Deer Isle.
Giraffes by Marianne Hoberman. I like them. Ask me why. Because they hold their heads so high. Because their necks stretch to the sky. Because they're quiet, calm, and shy. Because they run so fast they fly. Because their eyes are velvet brown. Because their coats are spotted tan. Because they eat the tops of trees. Because their legs have wobbly, knobbly knees. Because that's why I like giraffes. Giraffes by Marianne Hoberman.
And now I introduce you to Winslow Noel, our third place winner from the Adams School in Castine. Winslow will be reciting an untitled poem by beloved Finnish poet Eva Kilpi.
Untitled by Eva Kilpi. Genuine. That's us, the animals. The reptiles and snakes, the reindeer, pigs, and antelopes. We're genuine. A handbag isn't genuine if it isn't made from us. Likewise a belt or shoes. People come to us for authenticity because they've lost their own. They think they can buy nature in natural products and the steaks hacked from their brothers. Don't you know, we've been robbed. Not only of the spirit, but of life, so that you can feel good. And good for what? You're on the wrong track. It won't take you anywhere. Won't take you home. We are your gloves. We're waving you goodbye. Untitled by Eva Kilpi.
Coming up, we have Small Hands Relinquish All by Edna St. Vincent Millay. The first play that I ever saw at Opera House Arts was The Malay Sisters, a cabaret, back in 2013. A beautiful original production starring Rachel Murdy that celebrated the life and work of the beloved poet from Rockland, Maine. Tonight, Thea McKechnie from the Penobscot Community School will recite Small Hands Relinquish All.
This is Small Hands Relinquish All by Edda St. Vincent Millay. Small hands relinquish all, nothing the fist can hold. Not power, not love, not gold, but suffers from the cold, and is about to fall. The mind at length bereft of thinking and its pain will soon disperse again, and nothing will remain, no, not a thought be left. Exhort the closing eye, urge the resisting ear to say, the thrush was here, to say, his song was clear, to live before it die. Small hands relinquish all, nothing the fist can hold. Not power, not love, not gold, but suffers from the cold, and is about to fall. The mind at length bereft of thinking and its pain will soon disperse again, and nothing will remain, no, not a thought be left. Only the ardent eye, only the listening ear can say, the thrush was here, can say, his song was clear, to live before it die. That was Small Hands Relinquish All by Edna St. Vincent Millay.
Next, we have Rain Daniels, tying for third place at Deer Isle Stonington Elementary School. We'll hear the voice of Rain coming together with the voice of Robert Frost with Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I'd know enough of hate to say that for destruction of ice is also great, and would suffice. Fire and Ice by Robert Frost.
Now we'll go back to the Adams School to hear from Acadia Simmons. Acadia chose the poem Bats by Louise Glick. Louise Glick lives in New York City, New York, and was the U.S. Poet Laureate from 2003 to 2004. Here we have Acadia Simmons.
Bats by Louise Glick. There are two kinds of vision, the seeing of things which belongs to the science of optics versus the seeing beyond things which results from deprivation, man mocking the dark, rejecting worlds you do not know. Though the dark is full of obstacles, it is possible to have intense awareness when the field is narrow and the signals few. Night has bred in us thought more focused than yours. If rudimentary, man the ego, man imprisoned in the eye, there's a path you cannot see, beyond the eye's reach, what the philosophers have called the via negativa. To make a place for light, the mystic shuts his eyes. Illumination of the kind he seeks destroys creatures who depend on things. Bats by Louise Glick.
Our first place winner from Deer Isle Stonington Elementary School is Alyssa Smith. Tonight, Alyssa joins voices with Mark Strand in his poem Eating Poetry. Ladies and gentlemen, Alyssa Smith.
Eating Poetry by Mark Strand. Ink runs from the corners of my mouth. There's no happiness like mine. I have been eating poetry. The librarian does not believe what she sees. Her eyes are sad, and she walks with her hands in her dress. The poems are gone. The light is dim. The dogs are on the basement stairs and coming up. Their eyeballs roll. Their blonde legs burn like brush. The poor librarian begins to stamp her feet and weep. She does not understand when I get on my knees and lick her hand. She screams. I am a new man. I snarl at her and bark. I romp with joy in the bookish dark. Eating Poetry by Mark Strand.
Madeline Copethorne, another first place winner, this time from Blue Hill Consolidated School. chose the poem My Heart by Frank O'Hara. O'Hara grew up in Grafton, Massachusetts, and became a dynamic leader of the New York School of Poets. Madeline Copethorne recites My Heart by Frank O'Hara.
This is My Heart by Frank O'Hara. I'm not going to cry all the time, nor shall I laugh all the time. I don't prefer one strain to another. I'd have the immediacy of a bad movie, and not just a sleeper, but also the big, overproduced, first-run kind. I want to be at least as alive as the vulgar. And if some aficionado of my mess says, "That's not like Frank," all to the good. I don't wear brown and gray suits all the time. Do I? No. I wear work shirts to the opera often. I want my feet to be bare and my face to be shaven. And my heart? You can't play on the heart. But the better part of it, my poetry, is open. That's My Heart by Frank O'Hara.
Our last recitation tonight will be another poem by Mary Oliver, entitled Meanwhile. Summer Hardy from Penobscot Community School will perform this poem for you. Each time I heard Summer recite this poem throughout our workshops, I felt like time kind of slowed down, and the world, just for a moment, stopped for all of us to listen in a deeper, more connected way to each other. Without further ado, Meanwhile, by Mary Oliver, performed by Summer Hardy.
Meanwhile, by Mary Oliver. Lord, my body is not yet a temple, but only one of your fair fields, an empty field that nobody wants, at least not yet. But even here the lily is somewhere. Sometimes it lifts its head above the grasses, the daisies, the milkweed, the mallow. And sometimes, like us, it sleeps, or at least leans below the blades of grasses. Lord, I live as you have made me to live. I bite hungrily into the peach and the turnip. I bite with sorrow into the calf and the lamb. I drink the tears of the clouds. I praise the leaves of shrub oaks and pine trees in their bold coats. I listen and give thanks to the catbird and the thrush. Meanwhile, the fox knows where you are. The bees leave the swamp azalea and fly straight into the shadow of your face. Meanwhile, my body is rustic and brash. The world I live in is in hedges and small blossoms. Lord, consider me and my earnest work, a hut I have made out of the grasses. Now I build a door out of all things brash and rustic. Day and night it is open. Have you seen it yet, among the grasses? How it longs for you, how it tries to shine like gold. Meanwhile, by Mary Oliver.
Congratulations to our 2020 Voice.2.Voice Poetry Project winners. All of our winners will be receiving an anthology from Blue Hill Books called The Poetry of Impermanence, Mindfulness, and Joy, edited by John Brem. I want to thank our partner organizations, the Reach Performing Arts Center and Blue Hill Books. I want to thank our viewers tonight for tuning in, not just on the internet, but tuning your hearts into this experience to celebrate the amazing work, creativity, resourcefulness, and imagination of our youth in this community. And I'll leave you with the words of Mary Oliver. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Good night, everyone. See you next time.
First fig. My candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. But ah, my foes, and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light.
I love you, a fish and a pig, a fish and a pig, and a heart on my neck, and a fiddle in my heat, a barrel in